Welcome to the Algebra 2 e-learning course built on the Schoology learning management system. Just to highlight a few of these points as we go through here to relate to the goals and objectives that were aligned for Module 5, I'm just going to take you through a brief overview of the course design and explain in some cases how that relates to the constructivist view with the Assure method of instructional design in terms of identifying the learner and analyzing the learner, and then going through the standards objectives, how to implement those correctly, utilize technology, require participation and evaluation, and so forth. So with that said, I'm just going to begin with a quick welcome and introduction piece here. Just to click, this is just something that I have for my students to tell them more about who I am, who my family is, and so forth. And so that's all there. Also encourages a discussion, and that's one of the things for all of these units. There's a piece of discussion at the beginning and end of the unit where the students will be describing not only what they know about those specific topics, but also an evaluation component in which they're essentially telling me at the end of the unit what they've learned and what they liked, what they didn't like, those kind of things. So there's a course description here. I won't go through all of these things, but just a basic outline of what the course is, Algebra 2, and of course the course syllabus is here. Again, for the sake of time, I won't go through that, but through the 3 goals that I was specifically tasked with for this class were dealing with quadratic functions and equations, polynomial functions and equations, and then radical and rational functions and equations. So those 3 primarily, the quadratic unit is fairly large, so it's broken into 2 units. There are some things about algebra basics and intro to functions. Those things I did not include in my goals for this course, so I will not be going through those units, but they are there as I'm building something that I'm hopefully going to be using this year. In terms of the quadratic functions and quadratic equations, some of the objectives that I had discussed involve being able to successfully navigate quizzes at a certain percentage. I believe it was 70% that I had on one of those. So just as a quick illustration, I'm just going to click on a few different things. But you'll notice here it says Unit 3 Overview. I just kind of give an outline for the students, the standards that are going to be there. We go over all of the those types of things there with the quadratics. And then once we get started, you'll notice here that the unit or the unit themselves are broken up into lessons, and so the students will essentially be able to see most of the time. I may have some of this hidden so that they're not trying to work too far ahead, but most of the time they'll have these things available to kind of see exactly how the layout of the lesson and overall layout of a unit or module will be. And so when I click on any of these lessons, for example, you'll see that in this particular lesson, I have it broken down into 3 pieces: a notes section, a homework section, and then a second homework, or realistically, one of those homeworks would be an in-class or a collaborative activity of some kind. And so if I click on the notes, just as an illustration, you'll notice in this particular set of notes that the goal was to take the notes in a live conference that Schoology has built in through, I'll show you here. There's a conferences tab right here that I can click on as a teacher, and it takes me there, and then I can open a conference and students will join and so forth. So in this particular case, it'll be a guided notes activity. So the guided notes are created by me, and for the students that have laptops or iPads, they can just pull these notes up, and then of course they can begin to fill them in as I fill them in on the screen, and so forth. And so this is just one example of what a notes would look like. Again, this would be a guided notes from the teacher's perspective first and foremost, and then those students would then use those notes to go through some other activities as well. Go back to Unit 3. And so you'll see here there's a few different quizzes that will be assigned throughout the unit. those quizzes will just align with those goals that we had as far as what are we working toward being able to accomplish. This quiz is a fairly just a basic math quiz, honestly. There's not a lot to it in terms of difficulty. This is more or less just practicing what we've been learning as far as factoring is concerned, and also some work with complex numbers, which is one of the standards that we cover in this class. So I'll go back. So that's quadratic functions. We also had a goal for polynomials and polynomial functions, so I can click here and you'll see I haven't built this unit completely out just yet. There are a few lessons, as you can tell here, and they are more or less in the same vein. You'll notice we have a guided notes activity. I believe this one will be very similar to the other, where, although in this one it's a video. So again, as I had outlined in my tasks, that sometimes there would be guided notes that were of a video variety. Sometimes it would be a live conference. It really would just depend. So in this particular case, these are actually a video of the guided notes that I created. And these students have access to that.
Go ahead and start lesson.
So there I am talking over myself talking, which is kind of weird, but you kind of get the gist of that. So those students will be able to access this video. And even when we do the live conferences, those videos are actually archived here in Schoology, and the students have the ability to go back and watch them as many times as necessary. But in this particular case, for the notes video, this may have been a day where maybe the students, since it's the beginning of a unit, maybe they took the unit test of the previous unit, and then so now they're starting this on their own at home. And then that way, when we come to our class setting, when we have our live class, that those students will be able to maybe ask questions, and we can move forward with some of the activities in that case. And so that's the second goal. And then the last goal here, radical functions, radical rational exponents. I do have this one a little bit more built out. You can see some of the different things, the same thing with the lesson, same thing with the quizzes. What's unique about this one is this is one of those where some of these quizzes and tests become interactive a little bit more. And what that allows me to do is ask questions with the constructivist ideas in mind, where the students have been building on their prior knowledge, they've been communicating with each other, and now these questions are a little bit more complex in their design. Whereas that one quiz was more or less do this and get an answer, this is a type of quiz that's a lot more interactive. Being able to find the coordinates of, let's say, for example, a function based on a parent function, solving and being able in multiple choice kind of a situation. So those are a little bit more normal type questions, but there's a lot more you can do. Fill in the blanks, you can do some interactive type things, and like I said, in every one of these situations there will be a discussion prompt or discussion question to really focus on some of those formative ideas and engaging student understanding along the way. So that's my Algebra 2 e-learning course. I hope you enjoyed that. Hopefully it made a little bit of sense as far as the flow and the feel. And thank you very much.